welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, and I'm here with my guest, Aaron Branch.
Hey, everybody.
How'd you sleep last night, Aaron?
I slept pretty good, actually. I slept pretty good. I slept in.
Yeah?
I slept in.
What is sleeping in for you?
Sleeping in for me is, you kind of get it. With, our stand-up schedules, we're sometimes out until, 1, sometimes, 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm, innately a morning person.
Oh.
So I'll, automatically kind of try to wake up at, a 7 a.m. or, an 8 a.m., but because we're out so late, I end up sleeping in to sometimes 10, 11 a.m.
Which to me is crazy because I feel like sleeping in LA is so different than sleeping in Chicago. Because sleeping in 10 a.m. would not have been sleeping in to me when I lived in Chicago. It would have been 1 p.m.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like because you have to take traffic into an account. Mm-hmm. So it's 10 a.m. in LA is really, in a 1 hour commute. So you have to add on 2 hours on top of that, and here we are.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be here. This bed is so comfortable.
Oh, thank you. It's not sponsored yet, so I'm not bringing up the mattress, but we are open to mattress sponsors. Heads up.
Waka waka.
No, I think this is a comfortable place to have a podcast, so it makes it easy, right?
It's awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any, I feel like a lot of creative people have sleep stuff. Do you have any sleep issues or do you sleep pretty well?
No, I definitely have some sleep stuff. I don't think any of it is diagnosed. I don't know why I said I think. It's not diagnosed. I definitely are you a night rider?
I tend to be very creative at night sometimes.
Okay.
So sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll have to be I have to just write right now.
Yeah.
But not always. I'm trying to convince my body to this is the time we're going to write at a normal time. But sometimes my body's nah, we're going to be creative right now.
No, most definitely. I've been trying to force myself to write during the day, but it always ends up being I just get hit with a spurt of ideas at night. Or the worst feeling is you're in bed, you're comfortable, you got your freaking glass of water on the side table, you're about to have some really good sleep, and then just bang, inspiration just hits you right then and there.
You just gotta.
Yeah, do you get up or do you just stay asleep?
I get, if I haven't taken my medicine that knocks me out, because I take medicine that helps
Just
me sleep.
knocks you out
It helps me
completely.
regulate my sleep.
Now I just feel like I just disrespected you.
No, it's fine. If I haven't taken it, usually I'll try to get up and write.
Yeah.
If I have taken my medicine, I could write. It might not make sense after 20 minutes.
Just trying to rush it.
Yeah,
I only have 18 minutes left. We got to get this out.
But sometimes I will also do a vocal note to myself as well.
It's a really good
sometimes
way to
that's
do it.
easier. Although sometimes I've accidentally talked to text and then it didn't make any sense because when I'm half awake, it's blah, blah, blah.
No, the talk to text is really, it only works maybe about 65% of the time. Half the time it's I said elephant, but it thinks that I said elegant.
Yeah.
And it's oh, what was I trying to say here? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but yeah, so you do a lot of night writing.
Yeah, I try to write whenever the quote unquote inspiration hits me. I have a notebook that I keep around that I actually had to get a new one, but it's one of those side ones you can put in your pocket.
Yeah.
And so when it just hits, you just go. But at night, for some reason, right when I close my eyes, that's when boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just got to get up and write.
You have to just get up and write, man.
Yeah. And so you just get up and you're writing mostly sketches or pilots or what you working on?
No, it's mostly stand-up jokes.
Oh, mostly
I feel when I say writing, for the most part, I am talking about stand-up.
Nice.
And I think that it's different time periods, right? So if it's if I'm in the middle of working on a script, then the same thing will happen with the script. But right now, I think I'm primarily focusing on stand-up. So that's kind of what's just been hitting me kind of at night.
Yeah.
What have you been writing?
I'm working on the solo show I'm going to take to Edinburgh.
Yeah, you were telling me about that, the improv.
So that's the big thing I'm working on right now. I'm editing it. We've got written, but it's I need to edit it down a little bit because it needs to be about 50 minutes, but I still want another 10 minutes that I'll probably do more for the U.S.
Man.
Yeah,
Are you working with a director on it?
I am, which is weird because I've started in theater, so now I'm kind of going back to theater.
That's so cool,
but
Sarah.
It's still a lot of stand-up. It's still comedy. It's still going to be a comedy hour, but it'll be a solo hour, so it'll be a little different. The thing that I think will be weirdest is to get used to doing stuff without a mic.
Yeah.
I think is going to be the weird part, because it is still got a lot of elements of storytelling and stand up in it, but I get to do like fun weird characters and like find a way to go deep on the narcolepsy about all that stuff.
That's so cool.
So
That's really exciting.
yeah.
I'm really happy for you.
And I'm happy for all the stuff you're doing. I just saw you in that Netflix show.
Yeah.
Unstable. That's a really fun role.
Pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy.
So when you first got, like, how long was the process from like auditioning to filming to like
It was all like everything kind of happened in the span of about 2 months.
what?
Yeah.
They did that fast.
Well, I mean, not filming. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm saying like in the span of like auditioning to you have the role.
Oh, okay.
Was like in the span of like 2 months.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and it
that's-
was like early April of last year, 2022, where I initially got the audition.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the audition and I was like really excited about it. And actors, if you're watching, you should always read the script if your agent is able to get it and send it to you. Read the script. And I typically do. I read this script. I fell in love with the character.
Mm-hmm.
And I like taped the day that I got the audition. And like sent that audition out to my agent. And then I think I rewatched it and I didn't like it anymore. So then I retaped again. And then sent in a new one. And then that next day, I found out that I was pinned for the project.
So do you know which audition they sent in?
I don't know which one they actually ended up, but they at least had like a multitude to be able to choose from.
Nice.
So then I had a director session, which was super exciting. And it was the director and the head writer and myself on a Zoom call. And I think that was only maybe about 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh.
And then the next day, I found out that I didn't get the role.
Oh.
So, and then I kept living my life.
Yeah.
So I just kept doing stand-up shows. At the time, I had just started a show with AJ Lubecker and Elliot GB at this pinball arcade, which was really cool. Shout out to Revenge of. And literally was just in the routine of producing stand-up shows and getting more director sessions, but also just not worrying about the outcome. I got my ears pierced. Like they were already pierced, but the hole had closed in one of them, so I got them re-pierced. I didn't have that at the original audition. And then they called me back literally like a month after I had the initial director session and were like, "Hey, we want to see you one more time."
Oh.
And I was like, "Wait, really?" And so I had to rememorize everything, and then I went back and did it, and then I think within maybe an hour and a half of doing that specific session, I found out that I booked it.
Oh wow, that's cool. So they might
It was a whole journey, like a whole journey.
And you don't know, like it could have been like, oh, like maybe we're gonna make this, role female, or maybe we're gonna change this about this.
You just
never
don't know. I mean, especially when it's a new television show. I mean, the writers and our writers are so talented and so funny.
That's what I really liked about the show, because I was like, I'm gonna watch this. I really hope it's good for you, you know.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, this is actually really well written. It's really funny, and
It's
your
so
role
great.
is super. I love that they do something that I do with my comedy characters when I'm writing a sitcom. It's they give everyone a very eccentric like trait that's very specific and weird, but like very fun.
Exactly. And I think they do a really good job of that. And also, you can be so specific with the character on paper, but it's not until you actually go into filming the project that you really get to kind of fine-tune those 3D specific things about the character.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what that process was. So I know that during that casting process, they were really just trying to pinpoint who would be the best person. And so I'm happy it ended up being me. I feel so lucky and so blessed that actually happened. But yeah, it was just definitely a whole entire process.
Yeah. That sounds exciting. And then filming it was
Was a dream.
Yeah.
Was a dream. Got to be on set with Rob Lowe and Sean Clifford and make new friends like Johnny and Rachel and Emma. And not to say that Sean and Rob aren't my friends. They are. They're great people.
Well, it's cool to see the father-son dynamic too, because that's like kind of like they're doing their own kind of Schitt's Creek, which that was an amazing show.
Yeah, and they did such a great job. I thought Johnny absolutely killed it. Rob Lowe is Rob Lowe, so of course he's gonna kill it. And Sean Clifford, I mean, just makes my jaw drop every time that she steps on to camera.
Yeah,
she's
great.
kind of incredible.
Yeah,
like incredible.
And the thing is that I didn't realize until probably the 7th episode that I really was starting to pay attention to the credits, and I was like, wait, oh, wait, co-created. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it because at first I was like, oh, that really does look like him. They did really good with casting. And I was like,
know.
oh, wait, no.
There's a few people that definitely didn't realize that was his actual son, but it is. It's his actual son in real life.
And that's the point where I'm like, I've never heard of him before, but the fact that he went to the length of creating a TV show, writing a show, because I've listened to interviews about how Schitt's Creek happened, and it's about, maybe it is a Nepo baby, but he had the wherewithal to be like, I want to produce this show, I want to create this thing.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's like, if you could put your dad in it, why not?
And on top of that too, Johnny's been grinding it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been a writer's assistant before. He's also been a story editor before. He's also been a writer before. Like, he has taken all of the steps for years to be in the position that he is in right now. So you can definitely add in the Nepo baby conversation, but at the end of the day, Johnny has been hustling for this moment. Yeah, and is well prepared for it to do all, and he's well prepared to wear all the hats that he had to wear for this project.
No, and that's what I mean. It's like actually doing the work, which is nice.
He's doing it.
Which is good to see, because you can't get to that point where you're like kind of co-show running and like not actually put in the work.
I could be Denzel Washington's son, and if I didn't feel like doing anything, you best believe that Denzel wouldn't try to do a show.
Yeah.
I like Johnny is like, he's very funny, and he's special, man. Like, he's really good, and he's really passionate about comedy and just entertainment and acting in general. That guy's he's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's cool.
No, it sounds like it was a really fun set to be on. And how long was filming total for the 8 episodes?
What was that, June, July? So about 3 months.
3 months.
About like 3 months and maybe like a little bit less than that. But yeah.
Could you not tell anybody about it for a bit? Is that...
No, I mean, once the Deadline article had been published, I could basically tell anyone about the show. What's weird though is that it still manifested in me not really telling a lot of people. Like, a lot of people were still shocked when I finally posted it I think I posted the previews in maybe March or February. And a lot of people were like, "You're doing what?" And I just didn't really, I really just didn't really talk about it that much.
Yeah, until it becomes a thing, it's hard because so many projects nowadays get killed beforehand or don't get picked up.
Or they film the entire thing and then you just don't know what's going to actually end up happening. And I've been in that position so many times with so many other projects that you just don't know.
Yeah, because I know there was a couple pilots too, right? That didn't get picked up.
Yeah, this didn't end up being picked up, and you think that's the direction that everything's going to head, and it just doesn't.
Yeah. So
you kind of just have to keep that mentality of I did the thing, now we move on to the next thing. Yeah. And that next thing for me has been stand-up.
Yeah. Well, I remember when you weren't even old enough to go to bars in Chicago.
Which is crazy to think about. And I got into the Chicago Tribune. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think
late breakfast.
That was really cool. I remember seeing you as super young, as a person too, but young as a comic.
I don't think people realize, but I've known you, Sarah, probably since I've been 18.
I know, that's so weird. That makes me feel a little old though.
No,
no.
That's just insane to actually think about, and I think that's also what makes Chicago so special. We have forged all of these relationships with so many different people. It feels like one big, weird, abstract family.
That's what I love about it. Anytime I see someone in Chicago, just around LA, it's like, oh yeah, it's just goes back to the way it was.
Exactly.
It's immediate.
And they're good people.
Yes, and they work so hard.
They work really, really hard. I mean, they're in any city you go to that has Chicago comedians, I feel like those always end up being the best shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
They always end up being the best shows.
And I remember when you first moved out here, because I was doing a show at that that place where you lived, where there's you share a big space with a bunch of people.
Oh my God, Upstart.
Yeah.
Shout out to Upstart.
So let me explain for anyone that doesn't. Upstart is this community for people that move to LA that they're not sure if they're gonna stay. It's you pay, I don't know what it was, probably $700 or $800 a month, but you share a room with other people, but you have some of your own space. But they had a recording studio, and they had it's for young creatives just out of college or in college.
Insane.
Wanting a community.
Well, what's crazy too, Sarah, I don't know if you remember, when did you start producing shows there?
I did shows there, I think most of 2019. I think I was doing a monthly show all of 2019 or early 2020, and then the pandemic happened.
So you did nothing in 2018? I feel like you did.
Maybe I did.
You did one at the end of 2018.
That was probably the first show. It was the end of 2018.
Because
that was the outdoor one. That was the huge one.
And I performed on that one, which was, and I didn't even know at the time that I was going to live there. But because I booked that pilot from Chicago, and then I moved. I was in LA filming. My improv group Preach had come down to LA for the. I know that was awesome, right? My improv group Preach had come down to LA for the for some comedy festival at the Second City Hollywood, and then you hit me up like, "Hey, I'm producing a show," and then me and Asia got to go and perform on that show, and that was and that night was the night that I realized that I'm probably going to live here. I was like, "This is probably where I'm going to live," because I knew at the time I had to come to LA at some point. I didn't know when. It was a lot of like moving pieces and whatnot too. But that night helped solidify it. And I lived with 25 people per room.
No, was it that many per room?
It was so many people. Not all of them, but they ended up expanding and having places with like bigger rooms. And we were bunk bed living. I did that for a full year and a half, man. That was brutal. Because the show didn't get picked up. And I just like needed cheap housing because LA is just so expensive. Yeah. So I lived in a hostel for a year and a half.
But I like that they had a lot of creative people there, I think.
That was the best part about it. I loved all of them.
I never lived there, but I did run the show there. It was
everyone loved the comedy show.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was always so excited about the comedy show whenever it was happening.
And that was what was so awesome about it, is that it had a built-in audience in LA of people that were excited about comedy, which for other people that are not in LA can be a little bit harder for comedy than in, say, Chicago and New York.
And it's hard to find those pockets of people that maybe have never been to a stand-up show, or people that are interested in stand-up but don't necessarily have the money to afford a 2-drink minimum. And so when you have producers like you that are as smart as you are, that are like have the wherewithal to actually be like, no, I'm gonna go to these people and see if they want me to produce a comedy show here, and then it works out. I mean, that just also shows your genius. And also, we're in a bed doing a podcast if you need any more convincing of how smart Sarah actually is.
It's a comfortable way. I feel like I have a podcast. I also feel like it makes people a little bit more open because you're almost like you're comfortable like a therapist couch, So
oh no, I feel so relaxed.
Right?
I feel so relaxed. Let's
great.
dive into childhood trauma. Let's do this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you started so young. So, you started before you were 18, or when did you start?
Yeah, I started doing stand up when I was 15, so a month before my 16th birthday.
So then
in 2011.
Okay. Oh, so you started before I did.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. I started in January of 2014.
Close enough, though.
So, yeah, pretty close.
Close enough.
But, yeah, like, we came up, But that's when I started. And so wow, yeah, you've been doing it a while.
Doing it for
you've been doing over 10 years.
Time. It's insane. It's been insane. It's been a wild ride. But I started doing it at Stanford and Sons Comedy Club, which if any comedians are watching that have been on the road, at least for the past 10 years or so, they definitely know about Stanford's. It's a very notorious club.
Where's it at?
It was in Kansas City, Missouri. Unfortunately, 2 of the owners passed away recently within like a few months of each other. Really, really sad also. But they weren't really liked by a lot of comedians, but they also treated me really well, and just a whole situation. But that was my home club for a very, very long time. And I just got to work with like crazy people at a young age, like Dave Coulier and like...
Oh, and when you're that young, people are probably excited to kind of take you under their wing a little, or like give you advice.
When you're 17 years old or 16 and sitting in a comedy club and Michael Winslow is performing, I don't think anyone knows. There's a lot of comedy fans out there that give Michael Winslow his flowers, but the man is so talented and creates such like an experience within his shows that, especially for someone that's still like in like their adolescence a little bit, but also like at least connects with like childhood like whimsicalness, maybe I'll say. Yeah. Michael Winslow is that guy. Like, he's made me cry on multiple occasions.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, like, I've opened up for him a few times where I've been like, oh, dude, you're great.
Yeah.
You're so much fun.
Well, that's the thing, is I think it's so cool that you were able to do clubs and, like, be doing material about what you're currently experiencing, but the audience is relating to it as, like, a universal thing.
It's insane. I got so lucky, man. Yeah. I got so lucky in, like, that entire experience. Like, without those specific 3 years, I don't think that I would still be doing comedy.
Oh, really?
Because they just really, like, took me under their wing, and by we I really mean like my city. And like I was just put into a position where I was able to perform on any stage that I really wanted to. I was at the Improv, I was at Stanford's, but I also would do community affair events. And
Before you're even 21, that's amazing.
it was incredible. I was able to get on TV. I was doing radio interviews. I got all of the experience at a very young age, and they're all tools that I'm able to use right now in my life.
And then you went to Chicago and started.
Yeah, and then that ended up being the next move.
Were you a comedy major in Chicago?
I was, yeah.
I remember that started happening like shortly after I was out. I was like, oh, they'd have a comedy major when I was, but I was a theater major. But
it was brand new. But I was supposed to be. I love my school so much, and my school was awesome. I was supposed to be a theater major. I did all the prerequisites to be a theater major, but they decided last minute to change it into a comedy major. So I literally have a comedy degree.
He's got a degree in comedy.
I have a degree in comedy.
I feel like that's the age difference you see. Whether you could get the major in comedy. No.
It's ridiculous.
That's so cool though. But I remember hearing about that. I was like, that's so fun.
It's very much. I feel lucky that I'm still able to use my degree right now, and I think that's one of the best things in the world. Like that time period was incredible too, where it was like in Kansas City I learned that I loved comedy, and then in Chicago I learned, all right, well, this is how you execute comedy.
Yeah, and then you started doing like it was the Young and Hustle show.
So they actually, they took inspiration from us.
Yeah.
No, just kidding around. They're their own people. They're awesome guys. I love all of them.
There were a couple different groups in Chicago that were happening at the same time that were really young comics.
Exactly.
Coming up.
Exactly.
Young as in age-wise.
Exactly. But the OG collective was the Martin Luther Kings of comedy.
Oh, you're right.
And that's what I was a part of.
Yeah, that was Joel and Jarrell.
Jarrell, Ty, Jason, Mike Robinson, James Fisher, Denny Love. It was a really, really awesome collective, and really it was that was great.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. Performing at the ice cream joint. Do you remember the ice cream joint?
Oh, the ice cream place.
Yeah.
Oh, where? I forget where that was.
The ice cream joint was the apartment.
Was that the Neapolitan?
So they had the Neapolitan show, but there also was an apartment run by Jack Bensinger. And who was it? I think it was Jack, Joe.
Okay. Because I'm trying to remember the house shows.
It doesn't matter.
But the point is, there were a lot of weird, cool shows in Chicago. There was one on the laundromat for a while. As a laundromat/bar.
That's crazy.
They have like so many. Like Chicago will find the most random place and like
we're putting
have
a show here.
There.
We're putting a show here, and there's gonna be fucking deep dish, dude.
Yeah.
Deep dish and beers, dude. Comedy. I love Chicago.
It's great, but that's the thing that's hard is to go to the next point. You got to move to LA or New York. I think
you have to.
Like it's a great way to get started. But one thing I really like about you is that you still have this like super great positive energy about everything. Because that's probably why I was like very surprised you've been doing stand up so long. Because I feel like when you meet people that are like 10, 12 years in, they've got this like layer of like, I don't know if it's like jadedness or something. And I love like you're just so happy and you're positive, and I love your energy so much.
I'll tell you what, and I really wish that I could give this man his flowers because I just do not know his freaking name. This is a true story. I was one of the top grossing shows, quick flex, of the what year was that? That would have been 2012 Fringe Festival in Kansas City.
Oh.
Right? We had sold out shows. Me and my friend Tommy Regan wrote this entire like one-man show together. And it was like a multimedia production. And it was a hit, right? But there was a guy there that was a part of the Chicago theater scene, but was doing a show in Kansas City. He had long hair and he had glasses. And I remember he was outside smoking a cigarette, and I think I might have been going into the venue. And he looked at me and he saw how young I was, and he said, "Hey man, I just want to tell you, there's a thing that happens with a lot of young comedians. And I don't know what it is. They always end up becoming like angry, or they end up becoming really jaded." And he was like, "Do everything in your power to make sure that doesn't happen." And I like paused and I was like, "Whatever, dude." And he's like, walking. But I think that as I've gotten older, and I really didn't start feeling that until probably I was about 25, when like the pilot didn't get picked up. spent a year in Los Angeles. I ended up only booking one thing, but that one thing ended up being my saving grace to be able to stay. And then the pandemic happened after I was building some momentum, and I just felt really I did feel angry at the world for like a little bit. But remembering that, I think kind of just made me realize this is really not that deep. I feel like I know that person, and that's me having ADHD right now, but that's okay.
No, it's okay. I think you do. That my partner went to Columbia, but was a film major.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Around the same time as you, I believe. Yeah,
that's crazy.
He did the LA, semester in LA thing.
Wow.
That's but we both lived around Chicago, like 6 blocks away from each other.
That's crazy. And you guys didn't meet till you are here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Sorry, ADD tangent. We will go back. But
it's always like,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That story, and I think that's one of the things I've always loved about you is just your positive energy, and you're just like this really fun.
I feel the same way about you.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
you.
And I really think that you've turned everything, like you've taken every card that life has dealt you and turned it into a positive. And I was actually just thinking about that the other day. I'm like, Sarah's like really a hard worker. You really are.
Thank you.
Like legitimately.
I try. I think I'm always thinking I'm not doing enough, but I'm trying to be better about that.
No, you're always helpful. You're always trying to connect with people. Like I remember being at the Comedy Store, like I first moved to LA, and like I think some dude was there that like had just been on Conan, and you were like introducing me to him, and then introducing me to like this person. And I was like, Sarah, you're just like you just look out.
Yeah.
You're really, really kind, and I really appreciate that a lot.
Well, thank you. I feel like it's like all tides rise together. It's not like I don't think like I know that some people get in this vibe of like being salty or jealous that somebody gets something that they don't get, but it's like, especially with stand-up, we're so different. And it's like, I want my friends to be doing well. I want my friends to be like killing it and getting opportunities. And I don't see, because somebody gets on a show, that's taking away an opportunity from me. I think it's just like, hey, like, I'm excited for you. I know that's the thing. Once I moved out to LA, I realized all our time is coming, putting in the work. It's a matter of like when, not if anymore.
And I think that's also the other piece of it too. It's like, if we can also take on that mentality for everyone, I think that we would all thrive together, man. Yeah. Like there's this thing that happens where it's like, let's say someone blows up, right? You have a friend, then all of a sudden they get 200,000 followers on Instagram or Twitter, right? That very well possibly will not last forever.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is you have a wave of comedians that either came up with them or maybe from a distance that send a lot of hate their way because they're jealous of the fact that now they're getting these TV opportunities and they're getting these writing opportunities, they're getting that, right? Well, what could end up happening to that person is they have this 2 to 3 year window and they end up kind of just slowly kind of fading away a little bit, right? And then you don't hear about that person anymore. And then all of a sudden you blow up.
Yeah. And
then you realize, oh, I should have just supported them.
Yeah.
During all of that time.
Yeah.
And I really am trying to like, I am not a hater. I've never been a hater. But I am trying to approach this industry from that perspective too. I'm like, we should all be helping each other rise together because when you win, I win.
Exactly.
When I win, you win.
And I think it also, like, people forget stand-up isn't, nobody does it completely alone. People give you tags over time. You workshop stuff. Like
it's a community project, bro.
Yeah, and like people don't, like people think of it as such like a separate thing. And like once you open yourself up to being like, no, like I'm going to the club, I'm going to work, to show face, to hang out,
exactly,
and like see my people, you
exactly,
know. And it's a different thing. And I think even if you're just at the club, like the other night, we got to say hi for what, like 2 seconds, and I knew you were busy hosting, but there's just a certain understanding about how everything works that you might just see someone for a second, but you're
just like, hey, how's it going? It's good to see you.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's just, that's all you need sometimes.
Yeah,
and good. It's just really magical. I think that there is such a good community of stand-up, and it is a nice place where you can always go, and like
it's great.
Yeah,
and that's our clubhouse in a way.
Yeah,
like even when I go back to Kansas City also, like there's like certain hot spots that I know that I don't even like text anybody anymore when I'm like heading back home. I just know like, okay, cool, I'm in town, I'm just gonna go to Kansas City Comedy Club and I'm just gonna see all my dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time there are sometimes new faces, but like I always know that I'm gonna see Jake, and I always know that I'm gonna see Dennis, and like I always know that I'll probably see Tristan if I go over here, and I'm like, I don't ever say this enough, but I'm like, it's just those moments that just make everything like awesome about a comedy scene. Like there's just certain things, there's certain places you can go, and I'm like, man, you got like, we're the scene, but you guys are the scene. And like, I just feel happy to be able to see you guys and see you guys be funny and tell jokes. It's just fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you started doing stand-up, what did your family think? Were they like gonna drive you to mics? Were they like, worried about you being in bars or anything?
Dude, my mom is like incredibly supportive, like almost to a fault. So like when I was like, hey, I want to try this thing, she was like, do it. And I was like, great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my grandmother, on the other hand, she was like, I don't think you're funny.
Oh!
And I was like, whoa, dude, you didn't have to go that far. She was like, fight me. And I was like, oh, no.
You got like a hard grandma. Yeah.
No, she's so sweet. She's the best. But she ended up coming to the first open mic night, her and my cousin Ryan and my mom. And then I knocked.
Your first ever open mic night.
They all came.
Oh.
I mean, because you have to remember, I'm 15 at the time.
Okay,
So they literally had to be present. I think I called ahead, and they were like, well, you have to make sure your mom is here, and yada, yada, yada. And then I think it just went a lot better than I think I expected.
Yeah.
Because I remember being at school and, like, working on these jokes and, like, kind of stressing out about it because I had never written jokes before and, like, Googling things like how to be funny, which I still Google today. Don't check my search history. Just see, he Googles how to be funny every single day.
Just start asking ChatGPT, right?
Hey, what's up, dude? How do I be funny?
Then it starts to link to a video of you.
That's so nice. Yeah, and then from then on, like, my grandmother, then I had her blessing, which I needed. And then my mom would just take me to open mics, like, literally every single Tuesday.
Oh my God, that's so sweet.
She would sometimes be asleep in the back of the club.
Yeah.
Just, like, passed out.
That's me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm so curious, too, like, for you, like, you've been narcoleptic, obviously, your entire life, right?
Well, symptoms start in your early teens is kind of when it starts. And
So-
then I got diagnosed probably around the time you were starting. When I was 15, almost 16 was when I got diagnosed.
Wow. And what was that journey like? Like, was it stressful? Is it still stressful?
It was weird because we had been trying to go to doctors and see what was wrong for a couple years, and then I had a falling down thing in one of my classes right before like a geometry test. I think it was geometry. It's like sophomore year. So I fell down in one of my classes, which is called a cataplexy, and I didn't know at the time. I thought I fainted.
Oh, no.
And so then my parents were like, "Oh, let's go to a neurologist." Because you fall down, I think I had like a seizure once when I was 7 or, so they're like, let's just check this out. And so the doctor, then we went to a neurologist, a family friend that was able to squeeze us in last minute. And it was really important because my doctor believed everything I said. Because a lot of people trying to get diagnosed, like people are like, like you're exaggerating or like down talk it. I was very lucky to have a doctor. Dr. Corwin was able to diagnose me properly. And he says, I think you have narcolepsy. So we did a sleep test, which is a crazy thing. It's called an MLST, multi-latency sleep test. So they plug you up to all these things at night and they test you at night. They have like 30 things plugged to your chest and your head. And the next morning they wake you up, they turn the lights on, wake you up for like 15 minutes, try to keep you awake for 15 minutes, and then they turn the lights off, have you go to sleep for 15 minutes. Turn the lights on for 15 minutes, have you go to sleep for 15 minutes to see how quickly you go into REM. Because if you go into REM quickly, there's more likely chance you have narcolepsy. So like there was one time they shut the lights off. Within 20 seconds, I was talking in my sleep and like already dreaming. I was like, I think my mom said, I was like saying, you're shocking me, Ma, you're shocking me, Ma. And my mom was worried that something was going on. It was just.
What's the sleep like when you are not on medication and you're just in your normal way of being? Well, is the sleep good?
It can be. Well, I mean, it's not restful. So it's not restful. That's why I'm tired. But I can be asleep for a couple minutes and have dreams that last for hours and hours. And I've done things like I've woken up before and like sobbed because I was in like a relationship for like 10 years with this person and I realized that person doesn't exist. Like that's like, it's like a weird trippy inception-y kind of thing.
Wait. Let's back this up for a second. So it feels like, you're saying in real time it feels like it's that long?
Yeah. I've had dreams that have lasted for like months. It's very strange. Those are really hard to come out of. Like it's emotionally hard to come out of because then you realize everything wasn't like real.
I'm so sorry. My heart is like.
But sometimes it can be really cool. Sometimes I have really awesome dreams sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes there's a few different things that happen, but I'm used to it taking about 20 minutes for me to get back to like a normal.
I had no idea.
Oh, no, it's okay. Like it's not and I think it's so interesting that shows like your level of empathy there, because it's like, yeah, the idea of like having full on relationships and like personal things happening in this other world, and it's been completely different
Oh
worlds.
my gosh.
But
that's a lot. I can only imagine what that must feel like, man. That has to be like
yeah.
Oh man, that's like when you finish a TV show and then you find there's no more seasons.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah.
That's a horrible and non-empathetic way to connect, but
but it is an interesting thing, and that's also giving me ideas for shows and different things, like and it's like
live another
depending
life.
on what you believe. Like I definitely believe in past and future lives, but I'm also wondering if because of the dreams, if I believe in the subsequent universe theory, or those sorts of things.
I think about that too. I didn't want to be disrespectful, but that's the first thing that my mind goes to also. It's like, but I sometimes find that can also be dismissive of what's also happening in regular reality if you go to those theories. And you're like, but it could be this.
But that's the thing, because of my dreams and because of all the things I've experienced in them, like, I, like, have a pretty open mind when it comes to stuff. I'm like, yeah, like, pretty much anything could happen. Like, octopuses could be aliens. I don't know.
No, it's crazy.
Like, that sort of stuff. I'm pretty open to what I believe because of the dreams. And so, and honestly, I think part of the reason, going back to the positivity thing, part of the reason I think I tend to be, very positive and like outgoing in that way is because I spent so much of my time sleeping before I was diagnosed. I'm like, I want to be out here, and I want to I'm grateful that that I have medicine that can keep me from sleeping right now, and I can be out and about and like doing stuff.
No, that's really, I'm really happy for you. On that end.
Yeah.
I really am happy for you.
And I take medicine now, so it like helps a lot.
So it helps. So do those dreams still happen? Where is those like elongated months or sometime weeks or years?
Less and less, and like usually I'll have a more specific sleep issue, like a hallucination or something like that, like when I take a nap when I'm not taking my night medicine. So sometimes it'll be, and sometimes it's something simple, like I could fall asleep and the TV's on, and like all the words from the TV go into my dream somehow, and it doesn't make sense, but in the dream it makes sense, like that kind of stuff, But and sometimes I hallucinate or have a sleep paralysis, but it's like, I used to have them every day, all the time, so it's a lot better.
Now that it's irregular, it probably feels like a huge weight is probably off of your chest, and you're like, I can deal with this now. Yeah,
and it's just about communicating with partners and things like that. Like, thankfully my partner is super heavy sleeper, so it works out well.
That works out great.
You gotta, I realize.
How heavy sleeper are we talking though?
Like, we're both pretty heavy sleep, where we can wake up and then we can go back to sleep too if we wake up. So like if I wake up, screaming or being like, house is on fire, even though it's not, like he could just be like, hey, it's okay.
I used to have night terrors.
Oh, you did?
I did. I used to have night terrors, but they always happen. You know what's crazy? I've never told anybody this, and I'm going to say it. I have night terrors whenever there's a big event.
Oh, like before or after?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I had my first ever night terror with the night before my high school graduation.
Oh.
And so I woke up like blood screaming, like just top of my lungs, just screaming. Second one was the night before my college graduation.
Oh.
Insane. Third one was the week that we wrapped filming of Unstable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's always whenever I have these like major life changes or major life shifts, and like emotionally sometimes I really don't feel it, but just something tends to happen. It must be subconscious that happens during that, when I can feel when there's a shift happening.
Yeah.
And then I just wake up just screaming.
Yeah. Have you warned partners about this at all, or you?
No, I mean it's only happened.
Oh, I guess only 3 times.
Only 3 times, and luckily I'm out of the. I went through a breakup, unfortunately, last summer. But no, it's fine. So she actually never got to experience that side of it. So the only one that's really gotten the brunt end of it are my roommates, my mom, and my neighbors.
Okay. Yeah,
but
just scaring like regular people. No one I was in a relationship with that like would know about that thing. Just like the room. I would always tell my roommates, hey, like I got some weird sleep stuff. If I sleep on the couch or if I take a nap and like I make noise, just like a heads up. It's like I always had to give people like a heads up.
Is it easy to wake you up when you are knocked out?
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, if you start talking to me, I could just be talking back and it sounds like we're having a real conversation.
But then you're just slumped.
Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of sleep conversations before, or like sleep ordering of things.
Crazy. That is really, really wild.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird sleep stuff that happens, and it's hard to get into all of it, but I think I have very understanding people in my life. For a while, it took me a while to find this, but like really started making sure I don't tolerate people that don't fully accept the narcolepsy and don't fully like accept, so everyone in my life like gets it.
It's
and
kind of like a part of you in a way.
yeah, it totally is. And it's like you got to have people in your life that like get it and respect it and understand it. And there's even like the things where, I take extra medicine to stay awake sometimes because it's like late and I might talk faster. So I might be like slightly annoying, but like, oh, if you know me well, you're like, oh, Sarah, did you just take your pill? Yep, I did.
It's important to have that understanding.
Yeah. And it took me a while to
cultivate that.
Also, just doing stand-up to like consciously have to speak slower because it's like the medicine. It's like either I take the medicine, I speak a little faster and I'm awake, or I don't and I'm tired. And so it's like...
So it's kind of like a back and forth on that.
Yeah, it took me a while to be a little bit more awake. But like I said...
I also see why you're a stand-up comedian.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah.
Exactly see why.
And it's a good way to like talk about it too. And that's where I really started to accept it too. Yeah. Is like sharing it on stage and like being open about it. Because that's one of the things I love about stand-up. People talk about like if they have anxiety or if they're bipolar or whatever. Like people tend to talk about their issues on stage and be so open about it. And that's what I loved about the community here.
1,020%.
It's like, oh, like when I told people I have narcolepsy, they're like, that's awesome. Why aren't you talking about it on stage?
Yeah.
And that's really what I was like, oh, people are looking at this as like such a cool, positive thing.
No, it's insane. You have moments like that where you're kind of... I had that moment in Chicago with, and I'm okay with saying this too because I actually asked her permission already, but my mom is a hoarder. And so, but for a long time, the way that I grew up was like a secret. And so none of my friends knew when I was in grade school or high school. No one was allowed to come inside of my house. It was kind of this like secret between like my mom and I for a very long time. And so I kind of kept that going in college and was just scared to open up about it. And so I remember one day I wrote a joke about it and I felt so much shame for just writing this joke because I was like, what's going to happen if I tell people about this? Like, what's going to happen if I tell this secret that's just between me and, my mom?
Yeah.
And so one day, I think I was at the Laugh Factory Chicago, and I was like, I'm just going to just do it. And I did it, and it just like, I think it got like an applause break.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's one of those moments that I think I had to have been like 21 during that time, but I was like, oh, no, that I'm happy I did that because I now realize that I'm, one, not alone.
Yeah.
Two, I'm not weird for... Maybe I am weird for having gone through that, but also I'm not weird and people can relate to it. And the other thing is also people want to hear about those kind of things. You don't have to keep that inside.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, people want to know like the kind of weird quirks that make you you.
Did your mom hear that joke?
So I ended up doing Breakout Comedy Festival at the Second City, which I don't know if they still do. I don't think that they...
Yeah, but I remember it at the Up Comedy Club.
Oh my God, it was great.
Yeah.
And so my whole family came from Kansas City and I was like, I'm going to do this joke here. And I think at the time I probably should have asked her permission. I've asked her permission since then, and she does not care. She actually finds it really funny. But I did it there for the first time and like in front of a massive audience, and then just destroyed.
That's the thing. It's like a great way to like break into something, like make it a joke and share it with your parents that way of you crushing a really hilarious joke, and it's like.
And for a long time, like. It's crazy how, like, even just from having that one experience, that turned into me writing, like, what I would call probably my first, like, mini comedy EP, which I've yet to release. But I'm like, this is something that that one little tidbit opened up so many doors for me in so many different ways. So, to your point, being vulnerable, I think, it sounds so cheesy, but I'm like, that really is the key right there, man.
Yeah.
The things that you're scared to talk about those things.
That's exactly what I realized. I went through the same it was Ashley Corby, who is now I think lives in Nashville, but she was at my very first open mic. Her and I think Alex Seligson were also there, and both of them encouraged me to like do that because back at that time it was mostly just men at mics,
Man.
and it was nice to
Like
see
every
other
LA
people.
open mic.
Yeah, and it's nice to see people that weren't, just like to be like, oh no, that was because I came from sketch, and I was like, they didn't laugh at every single punchline at the end of my first open mic. I was like, that wasn't that good, because I was used to. Oh, I write this in sketch and the audience laughs, and I wasn't used to how stand-up works.
Exactly.
And the fact that I got a couple laughs, like my first set ever, was actually a really good thing. But perspective, you don't know.
You're like, I didn't get enough, and I don't know if I'm good enough, or I don't know what this is.
But it's because of direct like conversations with like Ashley Corby and stuff helping me, being like, oh yeah, you should talk about that again, and you should talk about the narcolepsy, and like I think I waited a couple months into stand-up before talking about it, and now I'm doing a whole show about it. So
I mean, we're literally in a bed doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And the stars, I think, make a lot more sense now.
Yes. It's fun. The universe thing. I was like, this is like a fun.
I feel like this is Kid Cudi's bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted like an adult galaxy, not like one where you think it'd be like a kid.
No,
one,
this feels like very.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do shrooms right now.
Oh yes, that'd be.
And we'd be fine.
Maybe I do a shrooms episode.
That would be wild.
That would be. I think it'd be interesting. It's like let's see how it goes. It could be awful, but it could be really. I mean, anything for content.
If you're ready to record a 6-hour podcast, I think I figured out colors. Hear me out.
This is what this pillow came from. It was from a mushroom trip at my friend's house.
Whoa.
And I just, for hours, I was in front of a fire and just watched this reflect in the fire. And this is my favorite thing in the world. And my friend was like, here, you need to have this pillow. And I was like, thank you.
Oh my god.
Because like we connected during the trip. So this is one of my favorite things.
That's so cool. I feel like when you receive those gifts, man, that's really awesome.
Yes, it's from my good friend Amy. So thank you, Amy.
Shout out to Amy.
She's amazing.
Giving out
Amy
fun
Andrews.
pillows.
Who has a great little bakery thing as well. But we are starting to wind down, and a question I always ask people, because the sleep theme is, what are your dreams for the future? And that could be any personal, professional, anything. Just.
I think I want. This is gonna sound so dumb and so cheesy, but I was gonna say it. I just want to be great. Yeah. And I say that because I think we live in a time where I could go to the smallest of small. This is no shade to anybody, by the way, but it's just the truth of the situation. I could go to any open mic night right now, take a clip, and it could go viral tomorrow. And then I have a ton of. Right? Mm-hmm. And then you get the validation of being, quote unquote, a great stand-up comedian without it actually being the truth of the situation. Oh. And I think that my focus right now is I just want to be great. Like, I want to be really, really, really just good at everything that I do, whether it's acting, whether it's stand-up, whether I decide to kind of play around with music one day. I'm like, I just want to be really great at that and to be able to be happy with that product.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think that's a great goal.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're winding down the podcast, so if you want to plug where people can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me. I'm on TikTok at Branch Boy Comedy, unless the U.S. government decides to shut that down. You can also find me on Instagram at Aaron Branch World. Also the same thing on Twitter and Facebook. And that's all. You can. I still have Yahoo. So find me on there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast. We always end by saying good night. So good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Sleeping with Sarah, where I slept with Aaron Branch. Be sure to follow Aaron on Instagram at Aaron Branch World and on TikTok at Branch Boy Comedy. And be sure to check out his TV show, Unstable, on Netflix. It's a great show, and it also stars Rob Lowe. If you like the podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe. Follow at Sleeping with Sarah on TikTok and YouTube, and at Sleeping with Sarah Pod on Instagram. Thanks to Josh Bryant for the music. Big shout out to Wolf Ramirez and the team at Jam in the Van. Please follow at Jam in the Van and check out their other podcasts and other live shows. I'll be releasing a new podcast each week, so tune in to find out who I have in bed with me next. If you want to find out more about me, go to sleepysarah.com or follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Sarah Albritton and TikTok at Sarah Albritton Comedy. Until next time, good night.
Sleeping with Sarah.